is Kuzwa, and today we are going to talk about topographic map. We are firstly going to focus on scale, reference or legend, grid lines, contour lines, buildings, roads, and water features. Now, I need you to sit back, take a seat, and get ready to grab some knowledge. Let's go. Now, let's talk about what is the topographical map and why do we use it. First, let's jump to its definition. Topographic maps are a detailed record of a land giving geographic features and elevation for both natural and man-made features. So basically, a topographic map is just a piece of paper written all the details about the Earth's surface, distances, and elevation, focusing on natural and man-made features. Now, why do we use the topographic map? Topographic maps are used for recreational purposes such as traveling, hiking, and orienteering. So basically, topographic maps, we use them for traveling when we go to holidays or when we want to find a perfect place for hiking. But they are also used by the government and industry to assist with planning, mining, emergency management. So the government also use the topographical map. Now, why do they use it? They use it to plan the urban. They use it to plan how they are going to build the features such as roads, buildings, and many other things that they can use the map for. Now, let's talk about the features of a topographical map. But note, there are many features of a topographic map, but for this lesson, we are only going to focus on the ones mentioned in the introduction. The first feature we are going to talk about is the scale. Now, what is the scale? Scale is the ratio of the distance on the map to the corresponding distance on the surface the map represents. So basically, the scale is just the ratio number with the first number on the left representing the distance on the map and another number on the left-hand side representing the actual distance on the ground. Map scale determines the physical distance and the size of a geographical area. This helps in navigation because it allows the user to determine the actual distance between places. Now, for example, let's say you want to go somewhere, and when you measure the distance on the map, it says you have to travel 5 centimeters. Does that make sense? Now, the ratio helps us to determine the actual surface. If the distance on the map is 5 centimeters, then the scale will help us determine what is the actual distance on the ground. Another feature I would like us to talk about are grid lines. Grid lines are the lines on the map that help you know the coordinates of any given location. So grid lines help us locate any places on the map. So grid lines are something that looks like this. They most commonly show latitudes and longitudes. Another feature we are going to talk about is reference or legend. Now, what is the reference or legend? The reference box displays the meaning of the symbols, colors, and style used to represent geographic data? Well, it's basically simple. The reference or the legend just represent all the symbols included on the topographical map. They give out the meanings. Now, a reference is something that looks like this on the map. Now, let's talk about the contour lines. Contour lines are the lines on the map joining points of equal height above or below sea level. Contour lines are something that looks like this. Now, let's talk about buildings. Buildings on the map are portrayed by rectangular shapes or sometimes irregular dark shapes. They look like this. Another feature I would like us to talk about on the topographical map is roads and water features. Roads on the map, they are portrayed as gray lines cutting across the maps, and there are sometimes written numbers of it. So there are different types on the roads represented on the map. They all look like this. Now let's talk about water features. Now, how do we see water features on a topographical map? Usually, water features on the map are represented by the color blue, and they all look like this. Now, remember, like I said on the beginning, there are so many features we can get on a topographical map. But the link below the video will help you know about all other features of the topographical map. Now I'm going to show you what does a topographical map look like.
You're probably used to seeing the same basic map with all the world's countries color-coded, but that's just one of many different kinds of maps. Each kind has a different use, depending on what you're trying to find out about the world. The kind of map we see the most is called a political map. It shows the locations of the world's countries and their borders, and often has major cities labeled too. But as far as telling us what the world really looks like, political maps don't get more detailed than showing which parts of Earth are land and which parts are water. That's where relief and topographic maps come in. These are the kinds of maps often used by Earth scientists, since they give us more information about the Earth's surface. Let's start with relief maps. A relief map is a map that uses a gradient of colors to show different landforms on Earth's surface. Take a moment and look at this relief map, or check out the larger copy in your PDF. What patterns on the map do you notice right away? What do you think they mean? Pause here and write your observations in your guided notes. The main purpose of a relief map is to show elevation, or the height of a landform compared to sea level. In fact, in geography, relief means the difference in elevation between a location's highest and lowest points. When looking at a relief map, you might notice that some areas are shaded in darker colors than others, like here and here. Relief maps use these different colors to show elevation. So that means these darker areas are places with higher elevation. That's why the Himalayas and the Andes, the two tallest mountain ranges in the world, are shaded in the darkest colors on this map. On the other hand, notice how lots of coastal areas are this nice light green color? That tells us they have a lower elevation close to sea level. Now, you might also notice that it isn't just the land that's shown in different colors. There are some different colors used in the water too. These colors sort of have the opposite meaning of what they mean on land though. The darker sections of water are deeper instead of taller, like this chain of deep sea trenches in the Pacific, shown in dark blue. Relief maps are useful for finding general information about the elevation and landscape of an area, or for noticing patterns about different landscapes around the world. They're also pretty intuitive and easy to read, even if you don't know a ton about geography. However, since relief maps tend to use colors for pretty broad ranges of elevations, it can be difficult to use them to answer detailed questions, especially on a map of a large area. For example, there is over a mile difference in elevation between the highest points of the Andes and the Himalayas, but this relief map shows them in the same color. Relief maps are commonly used for large areas, but to really dial into the details of a landscape, Earth scientists often use topographic maps. Topography means the features of the Earth in an area, like mountains and rivers. So, a topographic map is a map that shows the shape of features on Earth's surface. The difference between topographic maps and relief maps is how they show this difference. While a relief map uses a gradient of colors, a topographic map uses a pattern of contour lines. On a topographic map, each contour line represents a set difference in elevation, like 100 feet. Every time you move to the next contour line on the map, the elevation changes by that amount. In other words, if this blue area has an elevation of 400 feet, then the green area is 500 feet, and the yellow area is 600 feet. And the next band up would have an elevation of, you got it, 700 feet. When contour lines are closer together, they show that the elevation is changing very quickly. That means in places like this, the landscape must be a steep hill, mountain, or cliff. Now, remember, each band of contour lines on a topographic map represents an area of the same elevation. But what do you think is going on at these locations where the contour lines form a closed loop? Pause the video here and write your answer in your guided notes. Since each contour line represents a change in elevation, these loops basically represent a place where elevation stops increasing and starts decreasing on the other side. In other words, they represent hilltops and mountain peaks. Topographic maps are often labeled with exact measurements that tell the elevation of the area they show. That makes these maps useful for Earth scientists who need a detailed understanding of the landscape of a specific area. But a topographic map of the entire world would have way too many contour lines on it to really be useful. That's why larger areas are usually shown using relief maps instead. Topographic maps also take a little more training to use, but they're still an important way of mapping landscapes. These two kinds of maps help Earth scientists to take our three-dimensional world and show details about its landforms in a two-dimensional way. So, let's go over what we learned today. You now know that while most of the maps we see are political maps, Earth scientists often use topographic maps and relief maps to show details about the Earth's surface. And relief maps use a gradient of colors to show elevation, while topographic maps use contour lines.